Why do desires lead to anger? This is a question that has puzzled mankind for generations. The answer lies in an ancient verse, a nugget of wisdom from the Bhagavad Gita. The verse goes, Diya yato vishayan pumsa sangas teshu upajayate, sangat sanjayate kaama, kamat krodo abhijayate. This is from the second chapter, verse 62. Translated, it means, when a person keeps thinking about objects of material pleasure, they develop an attachment to them. From such attachment, desires are born, and when these desires are obstructed, anger arises. So, what is this verse really saying? The verse is essentially a warning about the dangers of attachment. It begins by saying that when one constantly thinks about material objects, an attachment to these objects is formed. This is the first step towards a cycle of negative emotions. Then, the verse goes on to say that from this attachment, desires are born. This is the next step in the cycle. Once a person becomes attached to something, they start to desire it. But what happens when these desires are not fulfilled? The verse tells us that when desires are obstructed, anger arises. This is the final step in the cycle. When a person's desires are not fulfilled, it leads to frustration and anger. So the verse is essentially a cautionary tale about the dangers of attachment and desire. It warns us that dwelling too much on material objects can lead to a cycle of desire, frustration, and anger. The verse advises us to avoid this cycle. It suggests that we should try to remain detached from material objects and focus instead on doing our duty, or karma. By remaining detached, we can avoid the cycle of desire and anger and achieve peace and happiness. In summary, the verse teaches us that attachment leads to desire, and unfulfilled desires lead to anger. It warns us of the dangers of dwelling too much on material objects. It advises us to remain detached and focus on doing our duty. This is the path to peace and happiness. So, the next time you find yourself desiring something, remember this verse. Consider whether your desire is worth the potential frustration and anger, and try to remain detached, focusing instead on doing your duty. This is the path to true peace and happiness. Remember, attachment leads to desire, unfulfilled desire leads to anger. Avoid this cycle by remaining detached and focusing on your duty. This is the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita.